Hare Hare. About 20 years ago, when I returned back to the United States, I was quite surprised to see how yoga was now a commonplace activity. Yoga studios, yoga retreats, yoga teacher training courses. Now, I am a practicing Bhakti yogi, have been a practicing Bhakti yoga my entire life. Went to India, grew up, studied Bhakti yoga, got degrees in the philosophy of Yoga Siddhanta and Bhakti yoga. It was my chosen or is my chosen path in life. So when I returned to the United States 20 odd years ago, I was very excited to see this very, very vibrant yoga community. And I wanted to dive right in and begin teaching Bhakti yoga. So I went to a yoga studio. I'd like to teach Bhakti yoga. Well, are you certified? I had no idea that one had to be certified in teaching yoga. One of the ways yoga has now been packaged in modern society. Very well, sure. I would love to. How do I get certified? I figured with my background in Bhakti yoga, being certified was a mere formality. So they said you have to contact this organization and they can direct you. So I contacted this specific organization that certifies yoga instructors. And I said I'd like to become a certified Bhakti yoga instructor. They essentially had no idea what I was talking about. They knew what Bhakti yoga was. It was, their definition of Bhakti yoga was, singing, doing some kirtans in the evenings and some dancing and feeling the bhav, feeling the love. But as far as certifying one for Bhakti yoga, there was no system, there was no criteria set up for an individual to be certified as an instructor of Bhakti yoga. Now, I actually agree with that. Yes, that you're absolutely correct. Yoga is not something that someone can be certified to teach. Now, if you talk about asanas, which is only one part of an eightfold yoga system, yes, you can be certified in how to deal with how to teach asanas so that you do not cause physical bodily harm to individuals who are practicing asanas. But yoga is a whole other realm of understanding, living, practice, and so on. It's like certifying someone in love, for lack of a better term. You can certify someone in diagnosing how to deal with someone who is experiencing or does not know how to deal with the pangs caused by love. Sure, dealing with medication or something like that, or dealing with how the mind, sure, that's not a problem. But to be certified in love itself, how can you be certified in love? That's similar to the experience of yoga. Yoga is such. Yoga, the practice, one of the 6 sadarshanas, 6 ways of seeing reality. It's not a question of certification. So when I was told that there's no system for certifying bhakti yogis, my reply was, well, how are you certifying every other type of yoga? And that's when I realized they were certifying the teaching of asanas. Very, very well. How to understand what is bhakti yoga beyond just this idea that it is singing and dancing and kirtans and feeling loving qualities, a loving nature, or manifesting a loving nature within oneself, within the world. Yoga means to connect, means to link, to connect. And there's various ways of connecting. But first of all, what are we trying to connect with? We're trying to connect with our spiritual, supreme self. Because we have fundamentally lost connection with our spiritual self. Ahankar, this false ego that we have donned and through which we experience the world has taken over our experience of reality. And we've lost self-identity, acknowledgement, understanding, and awareness of our spiritual and unique self. So first, yoga connects us with our spiritual self through penetrating through the covering of the ego, penetrating through the covering of the Dvargas, Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, penetrating through all that material conditioning, establish connection with the self. Then there is connection with the Supreme. We, the Jivatma, is qualitatively one with Param Atma, the Supreme Entity. We are small, individual, living entities. Then there is the Supreme Entity. A lot of people like to use the word consciousness, small consciousness, and supreme consciousness. That's another topic for another time. I will use the word here, entity. We are Jivatma, we are small, individual, unique spiritual entities. And then there is Paramatma, the supreme spiritual entity. Yoga is to connect ourselves with that supreme entity, returning the spark of fire to fire itself. That is yoga. That is the connection to be made. And then there is Bhakti Yoga, there's Karma Yoga, there's Jnana Yoga, there's various ways of making the connection. Bhakti Yoga is one such way of making that connection. Now, another erroneous description of the yoga processes is that Bhakti, Karma, Jnana are three different types of yoga. And either you are a Bhakti yogi because you are emotionally inclined, you are a Karma yogi because you are physically inclined, or you are a Jnana yogi because you are intellectually inclined. Pish tosh. Karma, Jnana, and Bhakti exist simultaneously within the same being. We have a physical body, all of us. So we must engage the physical body in Karma Yoga. We have intellectual capacity, a mind and intelligence. We must therefore also engage the mind in the linking process with the Supreme, Jnana Yoga. We also have an emotive reality that gives us the motivation for everything that we do in this world. So that emotive capacity needs to be linked through the Supreme, and that is done so through Bhakti Yoga. To exist on only one of these three levels is to exist in a handicapped, or limited, I should say, reality. Emotive and intellectual, but no physical capacity. Physical and intellectual, but no emotive capacity. Physical and emotive, but no intellectual ability. So we do not isolate ourselves from one practice from another, eliminating, I'm a Bhakti yogi, I'm a Karma yogi, I'm a Jnana yogi. No. All of these yogas exist because we are a holistic, individual, single, holistic unit. And all of these yogas help to connect all aspects of our reality, physical, intellectual, and emotive, with the Supreme. Bhakti Yoga is key because Bhakti Yoga is the reason why. Karma Yoga, karma is the what of our reality, the what we should be doing. Jnana Yoga is the how. What is the process? How do we live? How do we exist in this reality? Bhakti is the why. It is the most important question that must be answered. Why? Why am I here? Why should I behave? Why should I take up? Why should I involve myself in various spiritual practices to begin with? Why not just live a nihilistic existence? Why? The why question is the most important question. That is the bhakti question. That is what bhakti answers, the why. Once we have the why, the how and the what will automatically fall into place. Bhakti is often described as love, pure love even. And those are all accurate descriptions. Pure love, unconditional love, selfless love, all very wonderful statements, but let's pick a few of them apart so that we have as accurate an understanding of bhakti as possible. Bhakti is not about selflessness or a self-sacrificing nature. Not at all. Whether or not one chooses to be self-sacrificing is secondary to the experience and the manifestation of bhakti. Unconditional love. A lot of people have a problem when I describe unconditional love, when they hear bhakti described as unconditional love. And they say, no, bhakti can never be unconditional. There's no such thing as unconditional love because you are gaining from the experience of that interaction, of that loving exchange. Unconditional love, that definition, that descriptor of bhakti as unconditional love means that no matter what happens in the reality of around us, my choice, to love is not hampered. There is nothing you can do, there is nothing anyone could do that can stop me from choosing to manifest love. My love is not dependent upon anything external. My love is not dependent on what you may or may not do to me or for me. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do, Christ said. You can nail me to the cross, I will love you regardless. That is what it means to be unconditional. It is not conditional on what you may or may not do. Whether you choose to love me or not is irrelevant for my choice in loving you. That is unconditional. That does not mean that we do not experience satisfaction. Love, bhakti, is the most nourishing. It is the only thing that nourishes the jivatma. Our soul, our spirit, our very nature is nourished by bhakti. The jivatma is nourished by bhakti because the Supreme is nourished by bhakti. It is the only way the Supreme is nourished. Krishna says this numerous times, half a dozen times, if not a dozen times, in the Bhagavad Gita, that I am conquered by the love of my devotees. I can only be conquered, I can only be understood, I can only be seen and experienced by or through love. No other way. Naham vedayana tapasanna dhane nanna chejaya. Not by study of the Vedas, not by charity, not by worship, not by severe penances. It is not by these means that one can understand me as I am. So then how, Krishna? One may ask. Krishna explains, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Only by bhakti, only by love. The greatest experience of a spiritual being, whether it is the supreme spirit or the individual spirit entity, the jivatma or paramatma, the greatest expression of potential of paramatma and jivatma is in bhakti, unconditional love. For more on this topic, visit our website, like, share, subscribe, and join us in satsangs where we have and I lead in-depth discussions through questions and answers on issues of bhakti and how to begin practicing bhakti. For some reason, we think that in order for love to be pure, in order for love to be true, then we have to be suffering as we engage in love. If we're not suffering, if I'm not in some way disadvantaged by my manifestation, by my practice of love, then that's not real love. We put on a pedestal the long-suffering individual in the name of love. If the individual is enjoying oneself, if the individual is experiencing great joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment, then we frown upon that. That's tinged with a selfishness. No, love has to be self-sacrificing. Love has to be long-suffering. Pishtosh, I say. There is nothing more fulfilling, joyful, uplifting, satisfying, meaningful than bhakti. Doesn't mean that bhakti is all fun and games. The most difficult choice you will ever make will be the choice to love. Bhakti can be excruciatingly painful. Bhakti requires courage, an immense amount of courage and bravery to choose bhakti, to choose love. Bhakti requires a clear-sightedness, an unswerving dedication to truth. Bhakti is not for the faint of heart. We would rather spend our time hiding from bhakti by engaging in all kinds of maybe substance abuse, getting our fix on social media with likes and thumbs ups and so on and so forth, which are all catering to the conditioned mind and senses without providing any real nourishment to the soul, to that spiritual being that we are. We'll hide behind religiosity as we are told, no, just love God. And we'll hide all of our insecurities, all of our anxieties, all of our traumas, all of our prejudices behind a so-called practice of love of God. No. Bhakti digs deep into the truth of our individual nature. It exposes our true core, peels away. It doesn't allow us to escape from, hide from the conditioning of our mind and senses. This is Bhakti Yoga.